Hey, what's up guys, this is Spore here. Yesterday, the Octobrush Nouveau's kit was finally announced, and I want to talk about it, especially considering that it's had quite a lot of negative attention in the Splatoon community over the past 24 hours. So, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. In order to understand Splatoon 3's Octobrush Nouveau, I think it would be a good idea to look up Splatoon 2. The Octobrush Nouveau in Splatoon 2 had a very specific role that it played in competitive Splatoon. Namely, it had a fairly strong Rainmaker niche. Octobrush is a strong weapon in Rainmaker due to its ability to consistently clean up fights, as well as the fact that it is able to score some surprise kills onto opponents. Like, Rainmaker's mode is all about turning kills into momentum. If you can get kills and generate momentum for your team, you can move the Rainmaker more quickly, which in turn means that you can score more points and even knock out quickly. Octobrush Nouveau, on the surface, looked like it would be a good Rainmaker weapon. It lacked a bomb in that game. And its special, while it was cheap, was Center Missiles, which was a special that was sort of a one and done. Like, you'd click it, and then after a few seconds, whatever effect the missiles had would be over. However, it was a great disruption tool, and while it wouldn't be pumping out too many of them a game due to how Octobrush paints the map, it would still be able to get just about enough of them to disrupt the main threat to any Rainmaker push in Splatoon 2, namely Stingray. The way the Octobrush worked in Splatoon 2 is that it would take a role which I think many would call a Slayer support hybrid, but I think it's an oversimplification. The job of the Octobrush was to come in and clean up fights that its more aggressive teammates had already started, or to take advantage of any distractions from flanking teammates. So, for example, if you had a Smooth 7 that was flanking around, then the Octobrush would be able to take advantage of any of the enemy team that was preoccupied with that Sploosh-o-matic in order to take them out. However, Octobrush Nouveau still had plenty of weaknesses, and these weaknesses are largely what confined it to that Rainmaker niche. It's a very dependent weapon in Splatoon 2. On account of the fact that it lacked a bomb, as well as really any sort of tools that it could consistently throw out in order to help its team win the game when it was on the back foot. While beacons were amazing for Octobrush, as it could consistently lay them down while its team would push up, missiles weren't the best tool for Octobrush. They were a fantastic tool in Rainmaker, as they could disrupt Stingrays, as well as teams that were very well entrenched in their defensive positions, but it was not especially good for Octobrush, as it would often struggle to follow up on his own missiles. I played Octobrush Nouveau along Rainmaker in Splatoon 2, and at a very high level alongside players such as Brian Hazard and Nex, and in those situations Octobrush Nouveau was fantastic. It gave Hazard and Nex some beacons so they can consistently provide offensive pressure. I had both Stingray and Angel able to facilitate the Octobrush whenever I wanted to make a more aggressive play. However, outside of that role, it was not especially strong. I remember I did not actually play Octobrush Nouveau with Churits Mafia all that much in Splatoon 2, simply because that team lacked that sort of aggressive pressure that I could follow up on, and eventually I would find other weapons to play with them in Rainmaker. It's important to understand what Octobrush Nouveau was like in Splatoon 2, because in Splatoon 3, it's really not that different on the surface. The kit for the Octobrush Nouveau is beacons and Inkstorm. And if that was the kit in Splatoon 2, I would be jumping for joy. I remember thinking multiple times throughout Splatoon 2 that if it wasn't for Stingray, I would really want something like Inkstorm on Octobrush for those Rainmaker maps. And, well, it has Storm now. So, that should be really good, right? Well, not exactly. Inkstorm disrupts a specific area over a longer extended period of time, which is much easier for the Octobrush player to follow up on, in theory. However, the problems that Octobrush Nouveau suffered from in the past are still very much present as a result of the double-edged sword that is having beacons on its kit. And not only that, but there are some newer problems that it has to contend with as well. In Splatoon 2, there were a couple of maps in the game that Octobrush Nouveau was really not that strong on. Most notably, Walleye Warehouse. It was absolutely appalling on that stage. However, these hallway-style maps were very few and far between, and for the most part, you could get away with playing Octobrush Nouveau on just about any stage. However, Splatoon 3 offers a wider variety of hallway maps, and the fact that these maps are hallways is really detrimental to what Octobrush wants to do. Octobrush as a cleanup weapon wants to be able to come in from either behind or from an off angle in order to clean up fights. And taking those off angles becomes a lot more difficult when the map design limits those options to option A, go from the front, or option B, go from the side. Any team that possesses some level of awareness will be able to easily deal with any flank from the side, as it would take the Octobrush a noticeable amount of time in order to successfully pull off that flank. And not only that, but Octobrush Nouveau, as mentioned before, lacks those tools to be able to be aggressive and push forward on its own. It needs its team to set up opportunities for it to move in. which is much more difficult to do in hallway stages, as essentially hallways act as like massive giant choke points. When half of your map is a choke point, having a weapon that struggles to deal with those choke points is going to be very detrimental, and Octobrush Nouveau is one of those weapons. But Octobrush in general just struggles a lot with choke points in this game, and it's why it's seen very limited success so far. Additionally, looking at the more specific context of its old remake and niche, a lot of the teammates that provided support for Octobrush Nouveau and what Octobrush Nouveau supported no longer really exist. Swoosh-O-Matic 7 has been relegated to the vanilla Swoosh-O-Matic kit, which suffers from even more problems, I think, than the Octobrush Nouveau kit does in this game. Aggressive front lines with powerful special weapons like Inkjet that encourage you to move forwards in conjunction with those specials are harder to find. There are still strong weapons with those specials that can help get Octobrush in, such as ballpoint spiraling especially. I think Inkjet will be a fantastic tool. Like, Inkjet was a fantastic tool for in Splatoon 2, and it's even better in this game. But I don't think there are enough of those styles of teammates for Octobrush Nouveau to be especially successful in that niche anymore. And combined with the fact that half of the Rainmaker maps in the game are very hostile towards it, and all of a sudden the case isn't looking so good. To make matters worse, a lot of the maps in Splatoon 3 have small spawn areas, and Octobrush has this really nasty habit where if it tries to paint spawn for its special, it will very easily stop other teammates from getting their specials, which, while you are getting an ink storm, which is pretty good, you'll be spending a fairly long amount of time painting your spawn for your special in order to be useful, which denies the rest of your team opportunities to get specials such as Tacticooler, which can be extremely detrimental as you're essentially putting all your eggs into, will the Octobrush's Inkstorm do something? We don't know the points for special on Octobrush's Inkstorm just yet, but I'm hoping it's something low like 180p, as that would levy this weakness somewhat, and I think running a decent amount of special charge will help as well. But ultimately, Octobrush Nouveau is as much of a liability on defense as it was in the past, if not more so. And in a game where the maps are generally a bit smaller than they were in Splatoon 2, that's really not a good thing. Outside of that, I think the Octobrush Nouveau kit will be strong on Flounder Heights Splat zones because, well, it's a short-range weapon that can abuse terrain quite well on Flounder Heights, and it has Inkstorm, which is also an amazing special on Flounder Heights. I think it will be quite strong there. Maybe not as an aggressive weapon, but definitely as if you want a beacon weapon, I think that is definitely up there with one of the ones that you should actually pick. And the other place I could see this potentially having some uses in tower control, although I suspect that this probably won't happen as the team structure required to make Octobrush Nouveau work is overall less effective in tower control than it is in Rainmaker. And if you're looking at clams and zones, those kinds of team structures really just fall apart, unless the terrain on that map is so extreme that it would justify you altering your team structure, such as Flounder Heights. Additionally, on tower control, if you don't know, there's a passive special charge mechanic, so when your team is riding the tower, everybody on the team gets a very significant passive special charge effect, which means that the Octobrush will be able to throw its Inkstorm out a lot more consistently, and Inkstorm is a fantastic special for flushing out important areas of the map that people may wish to try and stop a tower from. So I think Octobrush Nouveau might be able to see some success there. The only other thing really left to talk about with Octobrush Nouveau is the community's response to it, as I deliberately did not make the video on the same day that the kit came out for this exact reason. The reception to the Octobrush Nouveau kit has been noticeably negative. I think a lot of Octobrush players are very disappointed that this is not a kit that they wanted, and all in all it means that Octobrush now has two very middling kits on a weapon which is painfully middling to begin with. That is practically a death sentence, especially in a game like Splatoon 3 where the power level ranges so much. A lot of people are holding out hope for the third kit. I'm not 100% sure if there will even be third kits in this game, so we will have to wait and see on that. Personally, I'm quite happy with this Octobrush Nouveau kit. I remember wanting it in Splatoon 2 on multiple occasions, and now we finally have it. I think it's really, I think it'll be really interesting to play it. I'll definitely be giving it a try when it comes out on my Twitch, over at twitch.tv/spore_, which you should definitely go and have a look at and follow and all that jazz. Personally, I'm really happy with this Octobrush kit. Some of my proudest moments in Splatoon 2 come from grinding Rainmaker rotations out with Brian, X, and Hazard, and this is the kit that I really wanted when I was back when I was doing that in Splatoon 2. So it's really cool to be able to actually finally get my hands on it and be able to play it. So yeah, that's what I think of Octobrush Nouveau. I think it might still be able to maintain its Rainmaker niche that it had in Splatoon 2, especially with the special being Inkstorm. But ultimately, I'm not sure if it will be able to overcome the hostile map design that Splatoon 2 had. Either way, it would be really, really funny if this weapon won 2 World Championships in a row. Until next time, everybody. Bye bye.